Have you ever come across a puzzle that just doesn't seem to make sense? We're about to dive into a university report where a group of students may have just cracked the code on a mystery that's been around for decades. So, here it is, the central puzzle. We're talking about Sabah, a state in Malaysia. Now, this place is overflowing with incredible natural wealth. But get this, it consistently has the highest poverty rate in the entire country. How is that even possible? It's a paradox that has stumped experts for years.
All right, so to really get our heads around this challenge, let's first paint a clear picture of what makes Sabah's situation so paradoxical.
On one hand, you've got this image of immense prosperity. I mean, Sabah is rich in crude oil, it's got a booming agricultural sector, and its natural beauty is just off the charts, driving a ton of tourism. By all accounts, it should be a very wealthy place.
But then you have this number. According to the report, the poverty rate for 2024 is a staggering 17.7%, the highest in all of Malaysia. So all that wealth, it's clearly not trickling down to a huge chunk of the population. What in the world is going on here?
Well, the student report that we're looking at today suggests something pretty radical, that for decades, maybe everyone's been looking for the answer in completely the wrong place, using the wrong tools.
And this isn't some new issue that just popped up overnight. This timeline shows that poverty in Sabah has been this stubborn, persistent problem. From the post-independence era where resource booms never quite reached the rural areas, to the 90s when economic growth just made the gap between the cities and the countryside even wider. And now, today, shocks like the pandemic have created a whole new class of poor. The old playbook just wasn't cutting it.
And a huge reason why is because this was the main tool in the toolbox. The poverty line income, or PLI. Think of it like a simple ruler. It only measures one thing, income. If your household makes more than this specific amount per month, you're not poor. If you make less, you are. But is life really that simple? Is a single number the whole story? This quote from the report just hits the nail on the head. See, when you only measure income, your solutions tend to focus only on income, right? Things like cash handouts. And look, that definitely helps families pay the bills in the short term, but it does absolutely nothing to fix the deep structural issues that are keeping them trapped in poverty year after year. And this is where the whole thing pivots. The report's crucial insight is that to really solve this paradox, you have to see poverty as something much, much bigger than just a number in a bank account. The argument here is that real poverty isn't just an empty wallet. It's an absence of freedom, a lack of real opportunity. It's not being able to get a good education, not having a stable home, or not having basics like clean water. It's a messy, complex web of problems, and that means you need a much smarter tool to even begin to understand it. And this slide just lays it out so perfectly. The old way, the PLI, it gives you a flat, one-dimensional line. You're either above it or below it. End of story. But the new way these students proposed, the poverty code, wow, it's like upgrading from a flat black and white photo to a full-color 3D topographical map. It doesn't just tell you if someone is poor, it starts to show you why.
Okay, so how did they do it? How exactly did they crack this code? Let's get into the specifics of what this new tool actually measures.
So instead of just that one lonely variable, income, the Sabah poverty code starts layering on all these other crucial details. Of course, you still got income and employment status, but then it adds in educational level, how big the household is, whether they have access to things like clean water, and, this one turns out to be huge, the actual type of house they live in. And as soon as they added that in, a huge part of the story started to emerge from the data. Just look at this. In their sample group from Sabah, a massive 56% live in traditional atap village housing. Another 28% are in informal pamus settlements. That means only a tiny fraction are living in modern apartments. So why does that matter so much? Well, check this out. When the researchers calculated a vulnerability score for each person, a really clear pattern jumped out. Those living in atap and pamus housing types were way, way more likely to be in poverty. So where you live isn't just a background detail, it's a massive piece of this puzzle. But the real aha moment, the real breakthrough, came when they took all these different factors and visualized the data in a way that, frankly, no one had before. So take a look at these numbers from their model. You've got someone with a secondary education who lives in an atap house. Their vulnerability score is a very high 9.0.
Now look all the way at the other end. Someone with a university degree living in a modern apartment has a score of just 2.0. You can literally see how these two factors, education and housing, are interacting.
But okay, numbers in a table are one thing. What happens when you turn all this data into an actual landscape? What does poverty in Sabah really look like?
This is what it looks like. They turned that data into a 3D poverty landscape with peaks and valleys. And the highest peak, the point of most extreme vulnerability, wasn't just one thing. It was the toxic combination, this perfect storm, of having only a secondary education while also living in traditional, often unstable housing. That is the heart of Sabah's poverty paradox.
And you know what? Once you can see the problem with that kind of clarity, suddenly the path to a real solution becomes a whole lot clearer too.
The report doesn't just stop at diagnosing the problem. It lays out 3 really clear, actionable steps. First, target education, specifically focusing on that crucial jump from pre-university to a full degree. Second, improve housing, upgrading those vulnerable settlements to safer homes. And third, start using this new, smarter poverty code to make sure that help gets to exactly the right people at the right time. Ultimately, the takeaway is simple, but it's incredibly powerful. To solve a complex problem like poverty, you first have to be able to see it clearly. The old, flat line wasn't just inaccurate, it was misleading. You need a detailed, multidimensional map. And that kind of leaves us with a final, bigger question, doesn't it? If a better measurement tool could so dramatically reframe the problem of poverty in Sabah, what other massive, complicated challenges in our economy, in healthcare, in our society are we failing to solve simply because we're still using the wrong map?